finally time for me to step and take my role. And I've just been trying to come in and do my job, and it's been paying off. It's been helping the team, so I feel like I'm contributing. Actually, I think you learn a lot more if you watch first and then get out there and try and play, because you see different moves, you see things that could help your game out, and I think that helped me out a lot.
You guys seem to have a lot of chemistry too. We've seen that 2-on-1 a couple of times now, and you're the one now. He gives you the ball back underneath.
Yeah.
You're not just setting him up anymore.
Yeah, I think he's getting more and more confidence in me, and it kind of makes me happy, you know. I mean, he's one of the best in the nation. If he thinks that he can have confidence in me, then that can only boost my confidence up more. I think the more coach lets me play, the more I think I contribute. Right now, I'm just a role player and just coming to do my job, so I just have to live with that for right now. But I mean, as time goes on, I think I can contribute more.
Are you the next Gary, or are you the next shooter, or what are you?
Just the next Alan Slefstein. That's all I can be.
Well, but having Gary Payton have that confidence in you, though, that's a big thing. When Gary gives the ball right back to him to let him take the shot, that tells you he's arrived.
Well, it helps, but the main thing is that he's earned a right to do some playing because he's a hard worker, he's a tough guy, he has some skill, he plays within his limitation, and he's a producer. He gets things done for you when he's out there. I like his competitive nature, and the more he does play, the better he gets. So maybe he's right. Maybe we should get him some more time.
And he makes no bones that he didn't mind sitting on the bench because he did learn. He said he was able to observe and saw it all come together.
Well, you know, we play with three small perimeter people, and Will and Earl and Gary make a nice combination. It really helps somebody to have someone like Alan to help those guys. Foul trouble, they need a rest, or if you just need to pick up the tempo a little bit, he gives you a little bit of more aggressive play.
Moving along to our history piece. Coming up, we have a mystery guest this week. I'll tell you a little secret, though. It's a close member of the Anderson family. Stick around. As part of telling the history of OSU basketball, we've reached into the family quite a bit, literally and figuratively, and this week our surprise guest is a member of your family. It's Mrs. Anderson, the coach's wife, Fifi Anderson. We talked to her and tried to get a little insight into you and also into the history of OSU basketball.
When I first met Jim, I didn't realize he had been a big basketball star because he was already finished playing when I came to Oregon State. So when he called me, it was actually a blind date. He called and said he was a secret admirer of mine, and when I told my sorority sisters I was going to go out with Jim Anderson, they said, "Oh, Jim Anderson!" Oh, you know. So then I was duly impressed after I met him.
How do you rate yourself as a fan as far as getting excited? Helen Gill's notorious. Jean Miller had her time. She wouldn't go to Matt Cord. Where do you fit into that as far as being intense at the games, getting excited about things?
I think I hold a lot of it in. I yell once in a while, but actually Helen Gill was the one that told me that a long time ago. She said, "Fifi, you're going to win them and you're going to lose them, but you've got to be the one that maintains some poise." And she said, "You can't go home and carry on. You've got to be supportive to your husband." Jim is probably one of the kindest, nicest people I know. He has no ego. Jim doesn't. He doesn't lord it over anybody, and he doesn't like a lot of attention focused on himself. I guess if there's anything that I can say about him, that he does take out his frustrations on me sometimes when I feel like I don't deserve it all the time, but he's a pretty nice guy.
Ringing endorsement
Yeah,
from
right.
home.
I'm surprised she called me a star.
30 years you've known
right.
each other. Now, it's about 30 years this year since you first
Right.
met, and obviously having somebody in your life that long and that association, very important. Being supportive with what you do.
Well, it's tough to be a coach's wife. You're on the road a lot. You raise the family a lot by yourself when the coach is gone, and you do get tense at times, and usually the person that is closest by usually gets nipped a little bit, and I think maybe I am a little tough once in a while, but I guess that goes with the turf.
Do you get to enjoy things a little more now? Again, she's now a head coach's wife as opposed to the assistant's wife. Do you get to enjoy a few things now?
Yeah, well, she travels with us, and that makes it nice because she can serve as a host to different people in the area or fans that go with us. So it's kind of neat to have her along, and she can see from a little closer angle the frustration that you go through when you're playing on the road, and maybe has a little more tolerance of how coaches feel when they go into these enemy territories.
All right, speaking of enemy territory, it's time to go to Los Angeles. Our next segment, a look at the Bruins and the Trojans. The Jimmy Anderson Show continues. The trip south this week. USC on Thursday night, UCLA on Saturday. For our scouting report this week, assistant coach Andy McCluskey gives us the lowdown on UCLA.
Okay, against UCLA, what we need to try to defend is a high-low offense that they've been running since the John Wooden days with Abdul-Jabbar, Curtis Rhodes, Sidney Wicks, that group of guys. It's a very old offense, very simple, yet they execute it very well, and the players that they have in these positions are very good. What they'll try to do here is have the ball go from Derek Martin to Trevor Wilson. Walker will set a back screen here. Martin will run off down here to the box. As this is happening, McLean will take his man down here to the opposite box and set up for the high-low post. Now, how they get into the high-low post is a Walker, after he sets his screen, will open up to the ball. The ball will go from Wilson to Walker here. Now, as that happens, McLean will try to get his man suckered below the block and then step in hard right in here. The two things that we're going to have to do is to try to get through here very well with the screen for Derek Martin, and then as Walker steps out to receive the ball from Wilson, we need to force this pass as high as possible. That makes the high-low pass a lot longer. The person who's guarding McLean here can't get suckered below the block, and we have to force the high lob pass that will go behind the backboard rather than letting him get the ball in this area right here.
Goes back to that. You don't want to give away the inside. Really, at any of these teams, this is evident with Oregon, and in their case, where they've got bigger, stronger guys inside, you don't want to give away the inside.
Well, that's the main part of basketball, is protect the hoop. And anytime you can get the ball down there low, your percentage is either going to score or somebody's going to foul you. So you really try to deny pass receiving in that area to the best of your ability and try to keep that ball out of that low post area.
Now, UCLA in their pass game, we're going to get into some highlights of this past weekend. UCLA actually used a lot more of the outside shot. They had that tremendous shooting percentage against Cal this week, and they took a lot of outside shots. Was that, how out of character was that for them?
Well, not too much. When they have Murray and Madkins and Martin, they're all good perimeter shooters, and so is McLean's a fine outside shooter. Cal was using the zone a lot of the times, and it leaves the outside open, and they were just potting those like, couldn't believe the percentage they were shooting from the three-point range.
That was a pretty wild game. We're going to take a look at both teams now from this past week, starting with USC. USC is Thursday night's opponent at the Sports Arena, and George Raveling still trying to put it together down there. He's got a lot of athletes, but he's never really had the whole package, but he has guys who can really hurt you.
Right. When you have Coleman, Monk, and Minor, all three are outstanding players. Everybody in the country wanted those three. They're strong, they're experienced. Minor, being a freshman, is their leading scorer, so you know the talent that he has.
He's been really the hot hand so far of his season for them. And also at home, they have played everyone tough at home. They gave Arizona a real run down there in particular.
Yeah, they have fine athletes. That's a scary game. I'm sure our players know their talent because they play a lot of summer games and know. So they have respect for SC.
We were talking about Al Celestine. He's going back and playing at home. This is his first. This is the first time he'll see a lot of action in front of home folks in LA. Sports Arena, not a tremendous home court advantage for them, but at the same time, all right, we're moving along to UCLA, and we'll get back to that about the home court. UCLA loses to Stanford last Thursday. A little disappointing for them, but again, it's tough for the California schools really like to go at each other, but they had their problems with Stanford.
Stanford's strong, and when their guards are shooting and playing with confidence, their inside game is so solid. If the outside helps them a little bit, Stanford is a tremendous team.
And this shootout with Cal on Saturday, and this was just amazing, especially from the very beginning. Just everything goes in, they go inside, they go outside.
I think I was impressed with UCLA's passing much more really than their shooting. I've never seen them give the ball up and pass as nicely and easy to each other as they did in this game.
And we saw earlier in the year in the Cal game when OSU plays at Cal guards are very tough this year, so to be able to work the ball this well is a real coup for UCLA.
Right. That's for sure. That's a tough place to play.
They won that high-scoring game at Harmon Arena. You think you're getting a shootout at Harmon, too. You're just going to get sucked into it and you're going to lose it. But they played well to win that.
Well, Cal played. They had to play well because Cal was
Cal was
playing.
going to be dangerous here down. That was a big win to get down there so early in the year.
I'll tell you what, UCLA better not look past Oregon either. Oregon's playing some good basketball right now.
The Ducks were very strong on Sunday against Washington State. Really
Glad to
controlled
see
that
that.
game.
Glad to see that that when we travel together, you have to play both of us, and you have to play well against both of us. So you can, if you look past one, you might get nipped by the other.
We'll get a little help Thursday night. Okay, we'll start Thursday night. The home court at USC, they don't draw down there. They don't really have a home floor advantage, but there are obviously other things just playing down there.
All right, just staying in your own bed and being on your own normal routine is a plus. And they do practice there part of the time, so they're used to the rims and the floor. And it's a shame that they don't get better at tennis because they do have fine athletes. And I've always admired Raveling. I think he's a fine coach.
UCLA on Saturday, you go to Pauley, you play against the tradition. You're still playing John Wooden, I think, sometimes when you go in there.
Well, it's his offense, I know that. Andy Mack put it on the board,
right.
And it's and Herrick was assisting there for a while, and he took a lot of the philosophy with him when he was at Pepperdine, so he just basically brought back a lot of John Wooden's ideas.
To play UCLA right now, I know preseason, that was the team I really thought had to be the favorite ahead of Arizona because they're so physical, and there's always been the talk they don't have the smartest athletes, they don't play well together, but Herrick has really done the job the last 2 years, getting guys he didn't recruit, getting him to play better team ball.
Well, they're starting to dominating the recruiting in the Los Angeles area, and they're getting the best, and there's a real reservoir of outstanding athletes, and if he can maintain that, he will always be strong.
Key to the game, key to either one of these games, or just key to the trip? Do you look at it that way?
Key to the trip is winning our first game. We said before you have to split on the road and you have to win at home, and we still feel diligently that that's what we have to do. We have to go in and beat SC and then just do the best we can against UCLA.
And again, at least you're starting from on top, so you can play it that way. You don't have to go and saying, oh, we've got to win 2 games.
Right, thanks to Stanford, but we think that we can win both games. But it's important for us to concentrate on the first one and not look to the big showdown as everybody's trying to make it, because SC is with athletes and coaching and a home court advantage, they can beat anybody. And as you said earlier, they've played teams well at home.
All right, we're at the halfway point of the conference season this week. We'll be back next week to tell you all about the trip to LA and look ahead to part 2 of the Pac-10 conference schedule. For the coach, I'm Bob Akamian. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Updating the Pac-10 conference this week, the Beavers on top as they head south to Southern California with UCLA close behind 7-0 and 6-1. And then after that it gets interesting as we finally start to shake things out at the halfway point of the conference season. Stanford with only 2 losses, all alone in 3rd place. That is a surprise at this point of the season, but the Cardinal been very tough at home, and that win over UCLA is going to help them a lot in positioning. Arizona still lurking in the weeds at 5-3. They will get to be home this week, and again, they've already had to go on the road, so they've picked up their losses early, losing in Oregon, of course, back in November, and then losing the one other game. So they're at 5-3. Oregon at 4-3. Tied for 5th right now. The Ducks off to a good start. Remember, they haven't lost at home except to Oregon State. A big road trip for the Ducks this week. Cal is tied with Oregon at 4-3, and the Bears, again, had those early losses, but they are going to be a team to watch down the stretch with just 3. So there's your first 6. Now, after that, these are the teams that are already slipping out of the picture. Arizona State, 5 games out at 2-5. Bill Frieder still making adjustments in his first year. The Huskies, a very disappointing 2-6 right now. Lynn Nance also making adjustments. It'll be interesting to see if Mark West continues to sit on the bench this week and the younger players continue to get the more extended minutes. USC at 1-6, very deceptive. We talked about it earlier. They have played well at home this year and are a much better team than that record. Their overall record is quite good. They did well in non-league play, although admittedly against a weaker schedule early on. And the Cougars still shooting very poorly. They really struggled at Oregon on Sunday, 1-7 in the basement. Here's the schedule for this week. All the action on Thursday and Saturday. Thursday, Beavers at USC at the Sports Arena. The Ducks at Pauley against UCLA. Again, an Oregon win would certainly help the Beavers out, and the Ducks coming off a good weekend in which they really control both the Huskies and Washington State. So see if Oregon can take some of their McCourt magic onto the road. The Bay Area schools go to the desert, and this could be a good one Thursday night. Stanford at Arizona. See how good the Cardinal looks away from Maples Pavilion. Cal on the road at Arizona State. Again, Cal team trying to make some hay on this road trip. They would like to get out of the desert with a sweep. It'll be tough, but they're a team that's capable of that with their backcourt playing the way they are right now. Now, Saturday's games. It will be Oregon State at UCLA, the feature TV game. The Ducks are playing at USC. Washington State at Washington. It's going to be a little Apple Cup action up there. Those two teams that have been having their problems, getting a chance to take the frustrations out on each other. And then Stanford is playing at Arizona State, and Arizona plays at Pittsburgh in a TV game. So the Wildcats stepping out of conference for that one. But again, key games this weekend as we go out on the road. The Ducks and Beavers both playing down in Los Angeles, and Cal a chance to really make a big move. Also Stanford, Cal and Stanford, as they play down at the desert. So we'll see how things shake out. We'll be at the halfway point of the Pac-10 season after this weekend's play. And as we get into part 2, we'll have a much better idea how things shape up for the race to the Goodyear Pac-10 tournament. We'll see you next week on The Jimmy Anderson Show.
This is the Jimmy Anderson Show, the weekly report on Oregon State University basketball.
Hi everybody, I'm Bob Akamian along with the coach. Welcome to this week's show. We are at the halfway point of the Pac-10 conference season, and Oregon State is on top with an 8-1 record. Coach Jimmy Anderson, back in November, you'd take that no problem.
No question about that, Bob. Never thought, for any reason that we could be 8-1 and tied for the conference championship right now.
You've been through a good trip with the Arizonas up here. That seems so long ago, and now the trip to Los Angeles, you got the split out of that, and you said it, that split's all you needed. You had a good, strong first night. You'll take that learning experience on Saturday.
Right. Well, we sure got learned, because I'm telling you, they took it to us in a period of about 5 minutes, and the game was over. We were in it, as you know, and all of a sudden, 5 minutes, game's over.
We saw what UCLA can do. That was my preseason pick for #1, and they showed their physical nature.
Right.
We'll talk about the Bruins coming up, but let's start out with Thursday night's game against USC at the Sports Arena. It's those first games that you always worry about down there, and off to a very good start. We'll pick up highlights right now, Beavers and USC. We have very brief highlights of this one. This was a very good overall offensive effort, 92-82, one of the best offensive shows of the year.
Right, and I think one of the real keys was Teo coming in the second half and getting 15 points. And that really helped our inside game. We're still trying to struggle with the fact that we need to get a combination of inside and outside strengths to work together. And in this particular half, it worked just to almost perfection.
One of the times Scott Haskins has been able to get a little bit of rest. He has really been putting in the long minutes, which is good, but you got to give him a break sometime.
Right. He physically isn't as strong as we'd really like him to be. In the next couple of years, we hope to beef him up and get him in there where he can play maybe 40 minutes.
USC Super Frosh, Harold Miner had a big night for them, and this is what we expected. You run into another one of these guys who's going to be on the all-newcomer team.
Right, he was almost unbelievable from long range, and he's so physical that he can jump over you in short range, so he was very, very difficult to contain. I think Alan Celestine did a good job just dogging him and tiring him down, and they had to give him a rest, and during that rest is when we got our spurt.
92-82, the final score at the Sports Arena. And as we pick up some stats from this game, we'll see Gary had a good night, but it was really spread around. Gary had his 28, 12 big assists, and that tells you that other guys are getting in the scoring act. There's Brantley and Martin, 15 apiece. Al Celestine playing back near the home folks, 14 points and 5 steals for Al.
That really helped. for sure. He had a good game. He's very steady. And here again, I mentioned, you know, where he was assigned to minor, and he really got off to minor. They put 3, 4, 5 screens on him every time. And Allen had to fight through each one and did, I think, a very commendable job.
A good start to the road trip, a 10-point win. Coming up next, we'll take a look at the Saturday, the wild one at Pauley Pavilion, the Beavs and UCLA. Saturday afternoon, the big showdown at Pauley Pavilion with UCLA, and I guess the first of the real big showdowns. As we get into the second half, we'll probably start calling them all showdowns.
Right.
But this was it. Everyone was pointing at this. You had a one-game lead on them in the conference. They had to come out and take it to you. But in the first half, Oregon State plays with, leads, controls the game on the road, and that's what you want against UCLA.
Well, it was a packed house, and we did get the lead, and we just sustained that all the way through the first half with a 4-point lead at halftime, and I thought we played good basketball. We kept them a little off edge with our defense, and it felt good to go into halftime knowing that you can play with them.
Okay, pick-up action here early on. Got off to a great start, early 5-point lead. Going to see Alan Celestine again working hard. Both Alan and Gary struggled at times with giving the ball up. They were undergoing a lot of pressure. Here Alan will get the ball back and go to the hoop and score. But they both had to work hard, and the numbers didn't look as good, but they were constantly dogged the entire game.
Well, UCLA played a fine game. They worked hard, and they have some quickness and some big fellas in there, thick fellas, and there you can see McLean going a little batty.
McLean, I tell you, McLean and Coach Herrick worked the officials in the first half.
I think they did.
You got you're at home. You get to do that at home. He's called for a goaltend there, makes a big deal out of it, and gets away with it. There they go inside now. Haskin in for a block, called for a foul here, but Haskin getting right in the middle of this. And now Madkins, a lot of wild shots early on. Watch this little scoop, goes up, and it's in. And Gary came right back and gets one on the other end. We're going to see that here.
Well, Madkins has been having a fine year. He's a very strong young man, and he really puts a lot of pressure on you defensively because he kind of bumps you and pushes you a little bit. He can wear you down.
See the way this game goes. Missed shot here. Gary didn't shoot well from the outside again on this one. Scramble, loose. Looks like Trevor Wilson's going to make a great save, except he saves it to Gary, who puts it in. This is the way the first half went. Now down to the other end. Trevor can't believe this. This is his floor. Now come down to the other end. Murray in for a jam, one of their young guys. They've got a good balance in their lineup with size and youth. And down at the other end, Earl Martin, nice little reverse, keeps it a 5-point game.
Some good freshmen in the league this year, and UCLA has a couple themselves.
Now Will Brantley, our player of the week, goes in, draws the foul. Nice move there. Keeps the lead at 4. We get a little action here down near the end of the first half. Bob Cavell, of all people, gets kind of tangled up with Trevor Wilson, and Martin starts yapping at him, and Bob's not going to back down. He's probably the littlest guy out there, except for Martin, and had to break it up a little bit. Nothing serious going, but Bob standing his ground.
I don't know why Martin even came into it. He was at midcourt and wasn't even involved, but they throw temper tantrums every once in a while, and it's kind of ridiculous because it does detract from the game.
Yeah, Bob comes back here, makes a nice pass at the end of the half, gets it to Lamont McIntosh off the bench, keeps that 4-point lead, and there's Herrick working the officials again. He wants a break down there, and he's going to start getting the breaks as we get into the second half. Now, the second half starts off with 2 very good plays here. Off the turnover, Earl Martin on the transition, bingo with that shot, and then Gary's going to hit a 3-pointer, and it's a 7-point lead, 47-40. Things look great right here. We're just 2-3 minutes into the second half. There's Earl. And with that 7-point and the 5-point lead, all of a sudden, it just happens for UCLA. Madkins buries this 3-pointer here, and then Gary's going to pick up the 3rd and 4th fouls pretty quick. And how much on edge does this put Gary? He continues to play with 4 fouls for 13 minutes, but he did not play as well after this.
Well, I think it affected our players probably more so than it affected Gary. Plus, it got the crowd into it, and all of a sudden, it got the referees a little bit going with the crowd, and that does happen at home courts occasionally, and all of a sudden we're not playing, as you can see, not playing that good ourselves, and then they're playing well, and then all of a sudden the whole situation, as you see here, erupts, and the game's over within about 5 minutes.
They make a big move there. They were trailing by 5. They jump ahead by 4. Gary kind of stops the bleeding a little bit with his 3rd chance, but then they really get going with the turnovers.
Trevor off the transition will go in for the jam, and they come in for 4 straight very strong baskets. You got to watch them all here. They're back-to-back, and this is just boom, 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 hot hat.
Be careful, close my eyes from
That's fine, that's fine. McLean will get in there and get a follow-up. McLean and Trevor both had the big games for them. And, both very strong on the offensive boards. Madkins and McLean going to do it here after Teo shoots an air ball underneath. This is one of those times where, again, you didn't get a very good shot out of it, and they come right back on their transition.
Well, when they start making their run, you kind of panic a little bit, thinking you have to get back in it quick, and you don't stay organized, and you don't run your offense, and that was to our fault. And it did cost us dearly.
This is the worst one here. Gary's got a little room there, and he gets picked clean. Breakaway to Martin. This puts him up by 13 points. The game is decided. There's still 6-7 minutes left, but it's over.
It's over.
Right here. Will Brantley will come on and make a couple of nice plays and get his point total up. And the guys come off the bench and do a couple of good things. It was not really garbage time down the stretch. We saw Kevin Harris get in there and make a nice pass. Carl Anderson gets a couple of hoops. And you finish with a little style, but it is over. UCLA with a 14-point win, 94-80. Look at the numbers, and we're going to see some big numbers for McLean and Wilson. There's the bottom. McLean 27-12, Wilson 22-8. Gary gets his 30 points, but the 9 turnovers tell a little more of the story of the game.
Well, that's been their story all year. The 2 forwards, McLean and Wilson, carrying the load for UCLA. Both of them are considered the best duo in college basketball right now.
Obviously, you feel like you're going to beat them. You're going to have a chance to beat them when you get them back home.
Well, we hope so. We proved to ourselves, especially in that first half, that we can stay with them. So there's no need for us to be intimidated or get nervous about the game. When we come to Corvallis, we're going to give it our best shot.
All right, coming up next, we'll meet with our player of the week. It is Will Brantley, the junior guard, coming on strong. Junior guard Will Brantley used to be one of the shyest guys around the Oregon State basketball program, and his game, as well as his interview technique, have come a long way in 3 seasons. We talked with him this week about his growth at Oregon State and about his junior season.
Well, coming out of high school, I really expected to be, the shooting guard here at Oregon State, and this year I came out earlier in the year and shot really well and was really aggressive with my offensive play, but now, I went down with a couple ankle injuries, and my aggressiveness has just, lost its place. But I'm trying to recuperate from that, and just try and come back and be more aggressive and try and take control a little bit more on the offensive end. I learned that there's a lot more to basketball besides offense. My defense has improved greatly from transition from high school to college, and now I just hope that I can come out the remainder of this year and really contribute a lot towards our offense, so we can take this Pac-10 title. Yeah, we got a 3-game homestand to get the momentum back, and this homestand is going to be a real confidence builder for us. Going down to UCLA, we played a great first half, but we came out second half and really didn't play aggressive enough. And they just really took it to us. We didn't box out as well as we did. They out-rebounded us, and they got a lot of second shots, which was a real key to them, blowing the game wide open. So this week we're just going to work hard and keep our head, into these 3 home games we got coming up next.
It is always nice to see people grow up in your program, and Will certainly has.
Well, he's certainly a very, very nice young man, and he's very coachable. He's fun to be around, and I wish he hadn't had that ankle injury, because I think if he would have been progressing at the stage he was right then, he'd be farther along this year. It slowed him down quite a bit, and especially in his shooting. But he's a real plus for our program.
Talked about him being aggressive, and he really has gone to the hoop strong. Early on in the season, we saw him really working his way in there, and maybe with the ankle responding, he'll do that. Also on defense, he is the other half of that press with Gary.
Well, not only that, he usually gets the tough assignment on their best offensive player, and he can cut somebody down in their scoring. He checks a lot of shots. He's quick to fill the lanes. Against UCLA, when they had that run, he was one player I could see really trying to pick it up and become more aggressive and just really try to hang in there during that spree. And I was very proud of him, especially in that game, that he was the one that was trying to get everybody back in it.
He's been the shooter, but he could very well be the point, and he's one of the guys you're going to have to look at next year to replace Gary handling the ball.
Right. He'll be a key cog without a doubt for us, especially in our ball handling needs for our offense, and he very well could be the point. However, he's played that off guard for so long, he feels very comfortable with that too.
Up next, we'll be chatting with the assistant coaches, two important parts of the history of OSU basketball. Now they're part of the current coaching staff. Freddie Boyd and Andy McCluskey join us next. There is no question but the average age of the OSU coaching staff has dropped dramatically in the past couple of years, not just with Ralph Miller leaving, but with the changes in assistant coaches. It used to be yourself and Lanny Van Eman, and now we have Freddie Boyd and Andy McCluskey, two youngsters, relatively, from the past of the program. Both had fine playing days at Oregon State, and now both are showing their stuff as coaches under Coach Anderson.
It seemed like anytime we'd have a big game, it would be Jimmy's assignment on that big game. And I can remember times when members of the scout squad not necessarily doing their job, and at that point Jimmy would just kind of take over and end up running the scout team himself as a player.
You know, when I was in school here, me and Jimmy were very close. I mean, matter of fact, there was one point where I was going to leave school, and Jimmy talked me into staying. And we developed a relationship from that. And when I left school, I told Jimmy if he ever became a head coach that I'd love to be his assistant.
Andy and Freddie played in different eras and took different roles with Oregon State, but both now take their experience to the bench, working with today's players. Freddie Boyd, in particular, has become a guru to Gary Payton. And you know, you watch Freddie work his magic back in 1972, you think that Gary just might learn something from him.
Nobody tells Gary how to do things. You know, you deal with Gary on the basis that you just try to take what he has and just kind of shape it. I don't think I've come up with a lot of new things for him to do on that court, because Gary is a natural.
I think that whether a player buys what you have to say or not, I don't think it makes much difference whether you were a good player or a bad player. I think that the experience that you have, whether they buy into that or not, is the effect. And then when you have a guy like Gary, like Freddie said, there's not really a whole lot you can do, but there are very few Gary Paytons or Freddie Boyds running around.
There aren't too many Freddie Boyds around out there. You look at Freddie play, 1972, he looks just like Gary out there.
Right, he was a fine player. I'll tell you, he could play good defense. He was just like Gary, no question about it. Did everything for us.
You talk about how the game changes, but you see a lot of the same things, the scramble. You look at that whole reel of film, there's 5 or 6 steals, score, turnover, the whole thing.
Right, that's pressure basketball.
Yeah.
And we enjoy it, and that's the way it is. Those two assistants are just doing a great job for us, too. Very nice to have graduates of your own university that you have helped recruit. They're good friends, they're loyal, they work hard, they're intelligent, they're best buddies. And very proud of those guys.
We talked about this before we started taping here, the change from older assistants to younger assistants. Guys like Peyton and Earl Martin and Will Brantley have seen that transition. What's your feeling on having 2 much younger fellows than yourself and Lanny now as your assistants?
Well, they're young in heart, and they're young with energy, and I think it's a real plus to our program. They can relate with the players. They get along great with them right all the way through, from working with academics to recruiting to on-the-floor coaching. I think it's really a plus, because it does take energy in this profession, and it takes loyalty, and it takes people that really care about their team and their school.
And it's important to say, I think, they're not buddies to the players. They don't have to act like the players, but they just need to be able to, hey, you talk about that, have the energy to lay down the law, too. You've got to sometimes tell another young guy to go to class, to do this, to make sure you're getting this done.
Well, this is one of the learning experiences of players. They have to learn to play roles, and you can relate with young people and be a friend, but you also have to be the coach on the other hand, and they have to realize that you got to keep those two things apart. When it comes time to work, you work, and when it comes time to have a little fun and enjoy each other, you do that.
Coming up, the Bay Area teams come north. It's round 2 of the Pac-10 conference schedule. We will preview California and Stanford. The
The Bay returns, this time on the Oregon side of the conference. Stanford and Cal coming to town this week, the second matchups of the season. Very important sweep of the first 2 games down in the Bay Area for Oregon State. Now they're coming north. Assistant coach Jim Shaw has the scouting report on the Cal Bears.
Okay, in playing California, we're going to play a team with a system very, very similar to ours. On offense, their basic attack is the 1-4, just like ourselves. They have a fine point guard in Keith Smith who tries to make a lot of things happen for them, and they have a couple different entries they use. They like to enter the ball to the wing. When this happens, their post man will set a back screen. They'll run Smith through for the lob. They'll slide Hendrick, their best scoring post, down. They'll reverse it, look inside, and screen down again. Things we have to be aware of are Smith creating, penetrating, and making things happen for their team, and Hendrick, who inside poses a strong scoring threat. He's the leading low post scorer in the Pac-10 and was last week's Pac-10 Player of the Week. So those two give them a good inside-out punch. Their other 3 guys understand their roles and are helping them play really well. Once we get the ball, or if Cal scores, they're going to set up in a press. And their press is very similar to ours. It's a 2-1-2 set. They like to use Smith as a rover like we do Gary, and they put the 2 guys up front in positions where they can front their men and try to keep them from scoring. In us attacking, it's important that we get the ball in as quickly as possible before the press can set up, that we dribble at the 2 guys and split them, that we take someone and get them behind the trap on both sides, and that we always have someone ready to come into the middle in case we get in trouble. But the big thing is get the ball in quickly, preferably to Gary. He can dribble and split these guys, which makes him have to make quick decisions. And if this happens, we might be able to get something over the top, which will lead to something cheap.
Was the first opponent this week, and I was really impressed the first time down in Berkeley how they played pressure defense and really played your game. And it was interesting to see the 2 guard combos go back and forth.
Well, they have quickness and they have good shooting, they have experience, and with Hendricks on the inside, they have that combination that we're trying to work out, where you have an inside power and complement that with your outside shooting.
These are highlights from the first game in Berkeley. Back on the 7th, the great guard combo, Keith Smith from Portland, and inside, Brian Hendrick, one of the top newcomers. We're just talking about our all-freshman or all-newcomer team. He's going to have to be on there. They really teamed up well. The guards, again, doing a great job. Fisher, the fellow from Seattle, doing it all inside and outside. And they play your kind of game, and you have to keep them away from it. They're also playing very well right now. They had a good trip to Arizona, and they gave UCLA a tough one at home.
Well, they're right in the thick of things. They have 3 losses, and if they could come up and sweep like we did, then they're right back in the race. So I'm sure this is going to be, they're thinking, sweet revenge against us, and they're capable because they have talent, and they're playing very good, as you said, right now.
A lot of Gary Payton fans down at Berkeley, even more at Gill Coliseum. Then at Stanford over the weekend, and this was the first game of that trip. A very tough game because Stanford got hot. We talked about they don't have the great athletes, but they've got guys who can make a hoop from anywhere on the floor.
Well, you know, with Adam Keefe inside doing his thing, and you're trying to stop that and sag off a little bit, and then if their guards get hot, they kick it back out, and I'll tell you, Patrick was drilling it in that first game, and I had never seen him before.
They just started knocking down the 3-pointers.
Right. We're going to have to make some definite adjustments, and Vlahov's playing very good for him too, very well.
And he's the kind of guy, he's so quick inside. He's very strong. He's not a terribly big man, but he's got all the moves. He plays like a guard.
He's a complete player. He can pass, he can rebound, he's active enough to do a lot of things like small forwards are supposed to do.
And you know, Vlahov, you know, we of course got to know him when he played that senior year at South Eugene High School. Vlahov, back home in Australia, in his adult league he plays, and he's a guard. He's always been a point guard.
Point guard.
So he's always had half the quick moves.
Yeah, that's crazy, because he's thick. I mean, he looked like he could be a heavyweight wrestler, because they must work on weights day and night there at Stanford, because their players, when you see the definition of their muscles, they're a lot different than ours.
And none of them are big guys to begin with.
Right.
So obviously Montgomery's got him on the iron a little bit.
Right, for sure.
Well, again, second time through, and both the Bay Area schools are playing well. Stanford have beat UCLA up there, and they know how to. That wasn't just a fluke in your game. They know how to handle people, and Cal's got to be the bullet team here in the second half.
Right. Well, You know, I was surprised to see Stanford lose at Arizona State, but Arizona State is starting to play better, and I'm sure now Stanford's going to come in thinking the same thing. They need a sweep.
Second half of the season, just your look at it right now. You're on top, got more home games, but you got that trip to Arizona at the very end.
Well, I'm just as scared now as I was when we started, because every team we beat was by a few points. It's going to be helped to be at home, but when you look at it, there's nobody that you can really say, hey, this is going to be a cinch. We got a chance for a blowout. These games are going to be tough right down to the last bell.
Yeah, got 3 in a row at home now. That's probably the best homestand you've had so far.
That helps. It's always helped to get home, get some practice. The game against UCLA didn't hurt us. I think we're learning from that. Now we just got to get back and win, and winning is the name of the game. If you're going to go for the PAC title, you got to win at home.
And it's one of those things, too. You got out of there. You didn't have to finish in that frenzy, and you know, the team didn't fall apart. No one's hurt. No one's getting beat up. So that makes a difference.
That makes a big difference.
All right, we'll see how it goes. We got the Bay Area teams at home. A reminder that Thursday's game is starting late at 8:30 start at Gill Coliseum because of television. We'll be back next week to recap the Bay Area teams and talk about Civil War Round 3. For the coach, I'm Bob Akamian. Good day. Here is how the Pac-10 stands midway through the conference season. The Beavers and UCLA now tied for the lead at 8-1. UCLA having the slight edge because they've obviously beaten Oregon State once, but the rematch is coming up down the road at Gill Coliseum. Arizona hanging tough at 6-3. The Wildcats lost out of conference this weekend to Pitt. Considered an upset, but it was on the road against a Big East team. I'm sure that won't deter Lute Olson's gang a bit. They're still hanging in there, but still 2 games back with those 3 losses, and they are suffering from the 2 losses here in Oregon earlier in the year. California trying to make a move at 5-3 now as they come north. These 2 games very important for the Golden Bears because they could just as easily be swept by the Oregon schools as sweep the Oregon schools. The Ducks playing very well, and they'll get a shot at Cal over the weekend. The Ducks right in there at 5-4. They had that last-second win at USC on Saturday to put them at 5-4, and they remain in the top half of the conference. Very solid spot right now. Rest of the standings, Stanford at 4-4 as they come north. The Cardinal already with the upset of UCLA, still in the hunt for good standing in the tournament. And they are looking to make a little hay. They'll play the Ducks on Thursday night. We'll get to the schedule here in a moment. Arizona State at 3-6, just starting to get it together. Bill Frieder having to make it go with an all-new group of players. Really didn't get much of a recruiting year, so ASU will improve and will be tough down the stretch. That's one of the last games for Oregon State that last week of the regular season. The Huskies at 3-6, they managed to win their interstate war with Washington State in overtime, but not very impressive. Huskies just hanging in there now at 3-6. USC probably a lot better than 1-8 right now, but they are tied for the cellar right now with the Cougars. Let's look at the schedule for this week. Everybody plays on Thursday night. The Beavers hosting California, Stanford at Oregon. Those are the 2 Thursday night games in-state here. The Arizona schools heading all the way north, and the Wildcats got to win 2 games on the road if they're going to stay up close to the top. Arizona starts in Pullman on Thursday night, while Arizona State will be in Seattle taking on the Huskies. And the LA Civil War, this might be interesting. UCLA playing over at the Sports Arena. SC has looked good enough, and they play that kind of run-and-gun game. This could be a real shootout in the LA Civil War. All right, Saturday, 3 games. Stanford will be at Gill Coliseum. The Beavers getting done early this weekend. They'll take the Cardinals Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock start. Arizona, Washington at Hackhead. Always interesting matchup there. And DePaul playing at UCLA. The Bruins stepping out of conference as they only have the 1 conference game this week. Sunday, 2 games. The Oregon Ducks home against the Cal Golden Bears. That could be a very important game. California loses on Thursday night, and Arizona State playing on the Palouse against Washington State. 2 teams trying to make their way up right now. And the Sun Devils again looking pretty good. See if they can make a move on the road. So that is the Pac-10 this week as we look ahead to the second half of the season. My favorite team to watch right now has got to be those Cal Golden Bears. So Thursday night games at Gill Coliseum, very important. UCLA, our favorite from the beginning of the season, is right there on top with the Beavers. Arizona may be the disappointment so far, but those were early losses, and don't see the Wildcats losing too many more games as we get down to the end of the season. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on The Jimmy Anderson Show.
Thank you.